Hello, everybody. Dawn Janice and Wendy Lee Baldwin Hargett are back again here today for you. We are Lightweavings Podcast, and this is where we ask that question: has something dimmed your light? And if so, are you ready to do something about it? We're here to talk about those subjects, and sometimes they're probably uncomfortable because it might be bringing up something that needs to be addressed. And Wendy and I have been talking for a few minutes about maybe a subject that might make some of you uncomfortable, but this is where the magic happens. So here we go. Wendy, take it away. What would you like to talk about today?
Hi, Dawn. I'm so excited to be here, and this is going to be a great conversation. Yes, talking about nourishing our soul and our body through good nutrition and exercise.
Yes.
So you were you are one of my inspirations, I'll tell you, because you simply glow. And I know that you used to be a bodybuilder. And I've told you this before, whenever I see you flexing your arms, I'm like, dang, I want to look like Dawn.
I love you for that so much. I'm definitely not in that shape right now that I was back. But you know what? Once you're up on stage, you can never, like, that's just not sustainable. So let's just lower the bar a little bit to normal here.
All right.
Anymore. I feel better now. Okay, thank you. Yes, it's a passion of mine, health and nutrition, exercising, and actually nutrition is sort of what brought me to the dance to become a health coach and a life coach. Is that coming off of I did figure competitions in my late 40s. That's when I did that. And the first show was actually one day before my 48th birthday. But I really noticed the science of how just a few tweaks in my diet, literally just a few tweaks, made such a difference in how my body looked, how I slept, and how I feel. And of course, how your clothes fit you, which is really important to all of us, not just women, but men as well. So it's not that hard just to make a few adjustments in your life and your lifestyle. And so I worked with a nutritionist back then, and I would have a meeting with her, and all she did, Wendy, was this. She just had me keep track of everything that I ate for a week. It's pretty easy to do. And then come back and tell her what it was. And she took what I was already wanting in my diet, obviously, and just adjusted a few things. Maybe going from, I was eating Activa at the time, just a yogurt that I really liked. And she said, how about we just go with a lower sugar Activa? Would you be willing to do that? And I said, yes. And so that's what it takes, is a few little adjustments to start seeing a difference in our bodies. Yeah.
So before you got into this, your bodybuilding and really get into the nutrition, and is this something how you've always been? Have you always leaned towards that, or were you kind of more like the rest of Americans, where we're brought up on the SAD diet, the
Absolutely.
standard American diet?
Yeah, I'm just like everybody. I grew up in a small town in North Dakota in the 60s and 70s, where a treat was a TV dinner, and processed food was the way to go. It's all we knew. And into college, I got into unfortunately, anorexia and bulimia was a big deal in the late 70s and early 80s in college dorms. And I learned that all we did was count calories. And so I learned that, oh, meat has more calories. So I stopped eating protein, and then I was craving protein, didn't realize that. So instead of protein, I would just eat carbs, because that was the salt is what I thought I wanted. But when I crave salt, I realized I'm craving protein. So I blew up like a balloon right out of high school and into college, and I gained like 50 pounds. So my face broke out. I had bad acne. No, my diet was terrible. I didn't drink water. I only drank Tab, which is the diet soda of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it was a disaster. And my body has scars from that time in my life. It wasn't until I got married the first time and wanted to be a good little wife in my 20s that I started making 3 meals a day for my husband and I, drank water at work all day long, I cut out soda and I cut out bread. And the difference it made in my body was 50 pounds. That's the only difference, other than having a consistent, daily meal plan. I ate 3 meals a day, all consisting of a protein, a vegetable, and I've even made desserts because I love to bake, Wendy. I don't know about you,
I do too. I'm a baker.
but yeah. So, it's just a decision. I'd been told that wasn't good back then. Bread was the culprit, and I love bread. I love bread. It's a go-to. Whenever I come to North Dakota, which is where I am right now, I feel like that's something that's like a habit. All of a sudden I want to bake bread and eat bread. So it's funny how certain areas, certain people maybe just sort of triggers like cravings. Does that ever happen with you?
Yes, it does.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. And for me, it's pastry because I have an association of like cakes and pies with my grandma.
Mm.
Because when I was little, my grandma helped to raise me for many years when I was little. My dad was a single parent, and that's one of the things that we did together is we baked. And it's a tradition that I carried on with my children and my grandchildren. It was like an act of love, and something to do. And so, yeah, I absolutely have those associations. And so that's one of the things I find really interesting is our associations to food. Like
Yeah.
you say, with bread in North Dakota, for me, it's pastries. It feels like love, you know,
Mm.
and just remembering somebody that I miss every single day. And
Mm.
it's been a bit of a challenge to work through that and to like kind of disentangle the emotional side behind that, where how it is whenever we can feel emotional, we'll go to our comfort food. So like for you, it'd be really easy to go to bread since I was like a comfort food.
Yeah.
And for me, it's pastries instead of looking for our comfort somewhere else. And we go to food.
Yeah, for sure. We have an emotional attachment to food. Not only do we need food physically, but there's a mental and emotional attachment to food. And I really noticed that when I was in training. So before the competition, it was just a 13-week diet, just 13 weeks. But it was very strict. And I really noticed that I had to take it a meal at a time.
Mm.
And towards the end of the training, I had 13 meals a day. It was
Wow.
13 small little meals a day just to feed my body what it needed, but they were small, tiny little, and every single meal began with protein. So if you're not implementing protein in your diet, I would say that is a great place to start. Instead of your go-to being the carb, like with me, the bread, or with you, the pastry. And by the way,
Mhm.
I like pastry too. I love pie. Like I've got little pie decor all over this house because I'm a pie fanatic. In fact, that's what I wanted the day. Like I told you, the first competition was the day before my birthday when I turned 48.
Uh-huh.
And people asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and all I wanted was pumpkin pie.
Oh.
All I could think about was pumpkin pie for 13 weeks. So I got 3 pumpkin pies the end of June, which is fun. Um, Not a good thing to eat a whole pumpkin pie the day after your competition in bed, though. Not a good idea. And we'll talk about that later. But anyway, um, so a few tweaks. And one of the books that I read was Dr. Perricone, the Perricone prescription, way
Mhm.
back in the 90s. And he always says, eat your protein first in every meal. That's a great way to make sure that you've got a good, healthy, glowing skin. Your body needs protein, your skin needs protein, your muscles need protein. But usually that's what we're craving, is that protein in our body. Now, if you're a vegan, you get some vegan protein, whatever it takes, but eat your protein first. That's a simple tip as a nutrition enthusiast, is to start that way. Before you eat anything, first of all, get your body in the parasympathetic nervous system mode, which is like calm by breathing. and then eat your protein first.
Well,
There you
that's really good advice. Yeah. And I notice that whenever I eat protein first in the morning, my day goes a lot better. Because if I don't, then I'm just constantly hungry, lethargic, and I'm searching, scrambling for something to fill up the space. So even at dinner, you're saying to eat whatever your protein is first. Because I know a lot of people say, oh, we fill up on vegetables first and then have whatever else it is. But you're saying to eat the protein first. So I'll remember that.
Well, and a good way to get both in at the same time is when I was in competition, I would take an entire uh, heart of romaine, and I would cut it up. I would wash it up and I would cut it up, and I'd fill a dinner plate with that. And then I would put the vegetables that I was able to eat, which were any green vegetable, no root vegetables, and red peppers were my favorite because they were sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would do ground turkey or a chicken breast over top of that with the tiny bit of dressing that I could have. And that was it made me feel satiated, made me feel full. Um, I did crave carbs that night because I was used to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a habit. It's almost like an addiction. If you're
Mm-hmm.
used to eating carbs at night, or for me, it was drinking wine. I used to do that at night. And I think that was the carb addiction, was that little bit of sugar from wine or whatever dessert or pie or whatever it would be that we would have
Uh-huh.
in the evening. And I grew up with that
Uh-huh.
dessert at every meal, right?
Right.
I
Yeah,
remember my grandpa used to go searching for something sweet. He was Norwegian, so he would say, "I need something sweet" every night. He would go look for something sweet.
Yeah, many of us were raised just like that. You'd have your regular meal, then you'd have your dessert afterwards, and it just became a way of being. And it's good that there's more focus on the healthier lifestyles now than the way most of us were raised. I'm dealing with my father that's aging and has a lot of health issues. And I look at him and those in his age group and, look at the diet that their diet, like his diet hasn't changed. And, you look at all the ailments and it really, maybe it's because I just turned 60. I don't know. But it's kind of like all of a sudden it's like, I really want to pay extra attention to my health, extra attention to uh, my eating, my exercising. And it's like, I don't want to be like what I'm witnessing from so many other people. And if there's some way that I can slow the process or avoid that, because I want to be mobile, I want to be flexible. I don't want to be on medications. Thankfully, I don't take any medications, but they say that the average American takes 4 medications a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to have heart disease. And I've had, I didn't share this with you earlier, but I've had this really weird mindset. And it's something that I'm doing some really good shifting on is I would feed myself whatever I wanted and say, oh, my body is designed to handle that because it's food. You know what I'm talking about? So it's
Mhm.
like I'm expecting my body to be able to process. It tastes delicious, but I mean, when you come down to it, it's not, there's really no nutritional value in it. And so now it's like, what I feel like is there was like a part of me that one didn't fully understand the importance of live food and the energy that it puts off and the nutrition that your body really needs. And there's also another part of me, it feels like there is like a little bit of a punisher inside of me, if
Mm,
that makes any sense.
totally does. It does. We utilize food in so many ways, not just as comfort. We talked about that a little bit ago,
Mhm.
but also as punishment. And uh, I know if it's some days when I've had a bad day in the past, and I would just say F it and crack open a bag of Fritos because
Mm.
that was like my sort of a punishment. It's interesting. It was a craving, but it was a punishment because I wasn't caring about my body at that point.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we do that to ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We're not caring about our body. And some of it, I feel, is because not everybody's been educated yet.
Mm.
And, because yes, I know it's coming out more and more, but look at our society in the United States. We're not exactly known for our slim and trim figures. We're not exactly known for being the most active people. And so there's still a lot of education that needs to be done out there. There's a lot of, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of habits, forming new habits. And I know like different experts say different things. Well, like some people say, well, do something for 28 days and you formed a new habit. And other people say it's longer. Other people say it's shorter. But I feel everybody is different. But it's what it feels like for me is it's just like you said earlier, making that decision. That's where it all starts, making that decision to be healthier for yourself right now, for yourself long term, because age sneaks up on us so friggin' fast. I mean, it's crazy.
True.
Yeah. And we want to go forward wherever any listener is, whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, time goes by fast. You want to start wherever you are and just start becoming aware, make that decision that you want to start feeding yourself, because it is feeding your body, it's feeding your soul, it's just nourishing. And it's an act of self-love. And that's just something that has taken me a lifetime to really understand that nourishing my body was an act of self-love and respect.
Yeah. And, everybody out there that's listening that may not have heard this message before, give yourself a break, because unless you are actually aware and you know that, you don't realize what you're doing to yourself.
Right.
But when you know, you can't unknow it, right? So then we start being aware of what we're putting into our body, how we are treating our body, if we're giving it what it's craving, which is movement. Our
Mm-hmm.
body craves movement.
Yes, it does.
It really doesn't crave sitting in a chair and watching TV and eating a bag of chips. We may think that's what we want, but that's our mind playing tricks on us. Our body craves movement. It's made to move. It's a beautiful machine. And our joints crave movement. That's why they start to stiffen up and hurt. So movement really is the key, not only to burn calories, but to build up muscle to support your bones and your joints and all the other parts of your body. I know that I've been in the last year and a half I haven't moved as much as I'm used to moving. And, it's just like it was a process of going through, the emotional parts of grief. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm aware of it. I see myself doing it. And so now that I'm aware, that's a huge step in moving forward with it. And so you and I have both decided that this is something that's important to us right now, is
Right.
to move our body more, not only what I'm putting into it, but what I do with my body.
Right.
Yeah. So giving it the right fuel to move it efficiently, just like you do with your vehicle, is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're putting food into our body that we don't really know what it is, like hashtag read the label, right? What is this processed food that I'm eating? Is it something that I would say, oh yeah, that's what I want to put into my body for good fuel, or is it not? Right? It's just a simple concept. Pay attention to what it is. Where did it come from? Was it treated with, let's be real, poison, pesticides, herbicides, genetically modified? All those things are detrimental to this beautiful body that we have, which is our housing while we're here
Mm-hmm.
on Earth. And if we don't want to be miserable when we're older, which you were just talking about, and be on all kinds of medications, which do actually more damage to other parts of our body,
Right.
it's if we don't want to, be miserable when we get older. And this is it. This is getting older right here. This is the beginning of it for me. If I don't want to be miserable for the rest of my life, which I've always planned on being 100 years old at least. That's always been what I've said. Because I've been blessed to have great grandmothers live that long, almost
Wow.
years old. And I think, well, now that I'm a generation, 3 generations past them. I've learned more about what's better for my body than they knew, right? So I should be able to surpass that.
Well, you go, girl.
Well, if I'm going to be 100 and some years old, I don't want to be a miserable 100 years.
Right.
I,
Well, and that,
yeah.
yeah, good point. Yeah, it's about quality, the quality of your life, because yeah, if you're sick and miserable, what's the point?
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
So,
it's just not as fun. It's just
no. So, I want to ask you some questions if you don't mind.
not at all.
What would you say to somebody that is, let's say, like they're really struggling with their health, they're struggling with what they eat? You hear oftentimes like, oh, I don't have time to make a meal, I don't have time to eat healthy, or I don't even have the money to eat healthy. Food is so expensive, and junk food can be more affordable. Although junk food, like, holy smokes, the price of that is really gone up crazy, which might be a good thing. So what would you say to somebody who says, okay, I'm willing to pursue this a little bit more, but I feel really overwhelmed. What do I do? Where do I start?
Hmm.
What's like one, actually maybe three tips to get somebody started, and they could choose from the three or do all three to get started?
Yeah, definitely awareness is number one. So starting with a food journal, just take a piece of paper and just jot down as you go through the day, when you remember, what you put in your body, and don't lie to yourself. Don't skip those 5 M&Ms you just ate just because you don't want to write that down. You're only, I mean, really, isn't that silly that we lie to ourselves? But we do. We lie to ourselves. Just be honest with yourself. What did I put in my body? And at the end of the day, take a look at your inventory about what fuel you put in and see how you feel. See how you're sleeping. Pay attention to your body a little bit. That's the first step, is awareness. Know what your lifestyle looks like, just like that nutrition counselor did for me when I was, getting serious about doing something scary, which was getting up on stage half naked and being judged with my body. I'm not saying go to that extreme, because that's extreme for sure. But it is the first step in realizing where you're at. We start with where we're at. And then after that, start making a plan. It's like, okay, I got up in the morning and I drank 2 cups of coffee and I had a donut. Okay, what would be a good substitute for me that would be something a little bit healthier? First of all, I drink coffee in the morning. I love coffee, but I've cut myself back to 1 cup. Now it's strong, but it's one good cup of coffee. And that's plenty for me to wake up, basically. And I like the smell of it. I like the taste of it. It feels like a treat to me. And then, like I said earlier, if you're going to put something in your mouth that you're going to eat at breakfast, and I suggest that you do, start with protein. Whatever that looks like for you. If you like eggs, and I do, I eat eggs. That's the simplest, easiest way for me to get protein. Maybe it's a protein shake. Get a good quality one. I wouldn't suggest making that your only protein that you have during the day, because it is highly processed, but maybe it's a shake. Maybe we just start with that. Maybe you make yourself a smoothie, you put some protein powder in there, rice protein, whey protein, whatever works for your body. And then some fruit and some, maybe a nut milk, or maybe it's regular milk. But make sure you do put protein in your body first, which we talked about already. And then third, I was telling you about the last meal of the day for me when I was in training, which was a big salad with some protein on there. Try not to eat after 7 p.m. Let your body process the food that you put into you. You can drink water, you can, a beverage. I would suggest not soda or something like that, but a healthy beverage, but nothing sugary. I'd like to drink herbal tea at night now. For me, that's the easiest thing for my body to process at night, and it helps me sleep better. So a warm liquid is nice. But if you eat a lot of vegetables before you go to bed at night, guess what's going to happen?
What?
While you're sleeping, your body will burn more calories than you ate.
Ooh, I'm gonna up my vegetables.
So there's an incentive for veggies at night. Like I said, that heart of romaine with all kinds of other vegetables like fresh asparagus, like red peppers, like whatever you like for vegetables. I will throw some nuts on there at night because I like that fat, like some roasted almonds or whatever.
Mm.
Seriously, while you're sleeping, your body will work really hard and you will lose a little weight overnight.
Sign me up. No.
There it is. There's my 3 tips for the day.
Uh, well, that's great. And it's great that you brought up about the soda. And that's something that here in America that people are obsessed with. And I don't think most people understand the damage that it is doing. What got me off of soda, I used to be a really big soda drinker way back in my 20s. And I heard that it takes, I think it was like it's either 32 or 36 ounces of good water, pH balanced water to counteract. I think it's like, I can't remember, it's like 1 can of soda. And so if you look at your body and the pH level, that just worked for me. And it's like, I don't want to have to drink 32 ounces of water to negate this 1 can of soda. So I made that decision. And, you're talking about reading labels and stuff. I'll share this. I used to be a Cheetos junkie.
Mm.
My thing was rum and Coke and Cheetos. And then one day I looked at the label and I could not pronounce almost anything on there. And I like, oh my goodness. And then that's what did it for me for Cheetos. I have had them a couple times in the last 30 years. They were good, but it's like, okay, I got to remember what these are really made out of. So those are yeah, it's fascinating to me, that this topic about our health, and because there's just so many moving parts, and some ways it's complicated, in some ways it's super simple. I guess it is whatever we make it. And the knowing, the becoming aware is incredibly powerful. And I'm really grateful that I have you, because whenever I have nutrition questions, I can always ask you stuff because, I acknowledge that you are more versed. This is more of your area of expertise than mine. And so it's great. And you seriously, you just glow. You're such an example of somebody that takes really good care of yourself.
Thank you so much. I could be better at it right now, and I plan on it. Because we aren't here for a very long time on this earth and in this body. But I mean, it's a reward to feel good. It's a reward to feel good and to sleep well. And drinking water is super important, so a gallon of water a day is a good
Mhm.
idea to do. And then once again, to be able to gauge that, get a gallon of water
Mhm.
out of that jug during the day. I used to carry a gallon of water around every day in my car, and I didn't care if it was warm or whatever. I just drank a gallon of water, because it does flush out the impurities, like you were talking about with the soda,
Mhm.
sugar, caffeine, artificial sweeteners, unfortunately, which is one of the worst things you can do to yourself, just
Yeah.
chemicals in your body. It actually, like I was telling you, when I was in college, I drank Tab. I never drank water. That's all I drank was Tab.
Mhm.
And it actually made me gain weight,
Yeah, I've heard of that.
all the sodium in
Yeah.
it. So I certainly didn't lose weight drinking diet soda. It
Yeah.
ruined a lot of things. Like I said, my skin, I've got acne scars from that to this day.
Mhm.
And, that was just a real eye opener what I went through back then. Uh, but, I learned my lesson.
Mhm.
And now that I'm aware, um, I avoid the poison of artificial sweeteners now completely. Yeah. So read your
That's
labels.
good.
Always read your labels. Know what you're eating. You can still have your favorite foods,
Mhm.
just like you said, maybe once a year, maybe once every other year, taste it. And guess what? It might not taste good anymore. if you wait for a while. You may not like
That's
it anymore.
yeah, that's very true. Very true. Something that was just come to mind that I was going to share about nutrition that isn't talked about a lot, and it's a kind of a my like curl your nose subject, is something that I learned from one of my great teachers, mentors, is a lot of the food that we eat can actually cause a candida overgrowth and a bacterial overgrowth. And more science is proving what people in the natural health already knew, that so much of the dis-ease in our body starts with the candida and the bacteria overgrowth. And if you have that long enough, it can actually turn to mold in your body.
Oh, gross.
Yeah,
Nasty when you think about it. Yeah, candida, sugar feeds that.
it does. The sugar and carbs feed that and the bacteria as well.
I don't know if other people experience this, but when I have something that's got processed sugar in it, or even too much natural sugar, I get this like yucky feeling in the back of my throat, and this it's like bad breath. It feels
Mm,
like bad breath coming up, and it is. And um I believe that is feeding candida when that
mhm.
happens. That's the candida that's causing that. So we all have that potential in our body. And it's just waiting, lurking in our body, waiting to be fed.
Yes, it is. And sometimes those cravings that you have really isn't you craving, it's actually the pathogen overload in your body. It wants to be fed.
It's a
When I
parasite.
first learned, pardon?
It's a parasite.
Yeah, yeah. When I first heard about that, it's like, you mean these cravings might be the critters living in my body? I was like, that's disgusting.
It is yucky to think about it. And I'm sorry for all of you that are like going, okay, I can't listen anymore. But it's the truth,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So we have a lot of parasites that live in our bodies, and to not feed those negative ones like candida is really important. So sugar is a culprit in my body for a lot of problems. Whenever I have processed sugar, I can feel it immediately in my joints.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can feel um, in my hands, especially an ache, and they hurt. They hurt to touch them. And that is, my body has rejected sugar now that I've had times in my life where I didn't eat any. My body doesn't want it anymore. And
Hmm.
it warns me. So, one of the keys to this, Wendy, this awareness is really paying attention to our bodies,
Hmm.
really listening to it. And as you're keeping your food journal, maybe also jot down how your body feels. Do you have joint pain in your hips, in your knees, in your shoulders, in your elbows, wherever that may be? Mine's in my hands. Um, are you getting headaches? Are you maybe it is the bad breath thing, or what is your body doing? Paying attention to your body and then correlating it with what you've eaten during the day. It's an eye opener.
Yeah, that's really good advice because most people don't listen to their body, just go on autopilot or just assume, oh, that's just a part of the aging process.
Yes, and that's not the truth.
Yeah.
It's just not. We don't have to feel crappy when we're older. We get
No.
good.
Yeah. And, there's more and more science coming out proving that too. I listened to Greg Braden, who's one of my favorite scientists, and he talks about this subject and, explaining all about the telomeres and all that kind of stuff and how we don't have to be old and decrepit. And it's all within our power of how we age. And our nutrition is a very important part in that. And our
Yeah.
activity, like you said, our bodies are made to move. You know, I I acknowledge that since I was taking care of my dad so much, I kind of got in the mindset of I always, need to do this, do this, do this. And I would find myself, oh, well, maybe I'll move for a few minutes here. I was at nighttime, I was actually pretty good. Like we'll be watching TV, I lay on the floor and do some stretching and stuff. But since my dad has moved into the care facility, I've gotten up and said, oh my goodness, I can get up and I can just move. And I started doing that, and it is incredible just even the first day is like, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to be. It just like your whole body is like, yay, you're remembering me.
Yeah. Yes, love that beautiful body.
Yeah.
If we're a few pounds overweight, it's okay. We can start by just like dancing in place. Nobody, I mean, if somebody's watching, good, they'll probably get up and dance with you, right? It
Right.
doesn't have to be, push-ups, sit-ups, and, squats, although those are good things to do. It doesn't have to be that. And even when we're driving, like I'm going to be on another long road trip here in a week or so, driving back to Arizona. I learned this when I was in training again. It's like I drove a lot for my job during that time. And as I was driving down the freeway, I would flex my glutes in my seat
Mm.
and pull in my stomach muscles. And that builds your muscles when you do that. Just squeeze your butt cheeks and pull in your stomach. It makes you sit up straighter. It's good for your posture, but it also builds those muscles. So even as you're sitting, you can exercise and nobody has to know. Like nobody sees me squeezing my butt cheeks, right?
Right.
But that's building them up. All that matters. So there's another suggestion for you for, passive exercise. Squeeze those butt cheeks and pull in your abs.
Multitasking.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm going to go a step further with that. While you're doing squeezing, do your Kegels.
Yes, ladies. Going to be helpful in a lot of ways. Yes. No, it's good for us, especially as we're getting older too, to, make sure that that part of our body functions well. We won't have to wear, Depends or anything like that too. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So those are some little easy tips to begin with. And then it starts to get encouraging. Like we start getting on a roll when we just start.
Mhm.
We do. And it feels so good that we don't want to stop,
Yeah. And if life throws something your way, or if you get out of the groove, it's okay. Forgive yourself. You did nothing wrong. Just get back up on the horse, you
That's
know?
life. That's life.
Yeah.
But it's getting back up on the horse that's the key.
Yeah.
Getting back into it and making yourself a priority.
Yes.
We talk about that all the time. Self-love. It's not a luxury to love yourself. It's an absolute necessity. It's what we're
Hmm.
here for. We
That's
really
right.
are here to love this vessel that was given to us as a gift, and this mind that we have free will, and just love the person in the mirror. And part of loving that person in the mirror is giving that body what it needs. And that's
Yeah.
good nutrition and movement.
That's right. Well said.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Out of my soapbox. So there we are.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, and we're
Uh,
here for all of you. Both Wendy and I are. Don't let her fool you. She knows a lot about this stuff too. Uh, but we're here to help. So if you're looking for more support in nutrition and exercise and loving yourself, we've got a couple people here that are willing to help you along the way and coach you for one session or many. It's just, it's up to you, but we're here for you. We've got free programs and we have paid programs. So maybe join our free programs first to see how we work and then go from there.
yes. I ditto everything what you just said. Yes, thank you for sharing that, because people do need to know that there is help out there, because it's easy to feel like you're alone, feel like nobody understands you. It can be ashamed of yourself, you can be embarrassed, and there's nothing to be ashamed about or embarrassed. It takes a lot of courage to say, okay, I'm going to do something different and I'm going to love myself. And so that's what we just want to do, and to encourage people. And yes, we are absolutely here in whatever way we can be a support.
Yeah. And a lot of people say that they like, I want to do this for my kids so that I can be around when my kids need me. And that's a good reason. But the main reason should be you.
Yes.
Do it for you.
Yeah.
That's not selfish. It's not self-centered. It's centered in self.
Mhm.
The difference.
Yeah.
It is a very positive thing. And then the fringe benefit is that others get to enjoy you being around longer as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wendy. I love
Thank
talking.
you. Thank you, Dawn. I love talking to you too.
Yeah, we took a little break over the 4th of July holiday, and that's good. Everybody needs a break, right?
Yes.
But I really miss this, and so we'll be back again next week. So we look forward to having you all listen and or watch on YouTube. And you can always find us at the links below if you're on YouTube, right? Also on the podcast, there's links below.
Yep.
And we will be streaming this onto YouTube as well as all of your favorite podcast channels. So once again, this is Lightweavings Podcast where we discuss that question, what has dimmed your light? And are you ready to do something about it? Like feed yourself well and exercise this week? Just try it. Just start. Thanks, Wendy. Any last words of wisdom?
Oh, thank you, Dawn. I just want to thank you for taking time to talk about this really important subject and encourage people to just take that first step. Just take one step, at a time, accomplish that, and then take the next step and just keep at it because it will pay off in the long run. It's a long-term investment in yourself.
Yeah, beautiful. I love what you said. All right. Peace out. We will talk to you guys next week.
Yes, we will. Thank you. Bye-bye.